Story 1. When I was a kid, about 8 years old, my dad left a pan of mushrooms on the stove to cool after cooking. It was about 2 to 3 pounds of mushrooms, a massive pan he used for meal preparation for the week. I loved mushrooms, and when they were left unattended I ate about 90% of them. I don't know how I fit that many mushrooms in me, but I did. Then, with no warning, I vomited mushrooms everywhere. I left a trail from the kitchen to the bathroom. They even came out of my nose. To this day, I cannot stand mushrooms. I cannot even look at them. They stripped me of my dignity. Story 2. Anything that once gave me food poisoning is permanently filed by my brain as an enemy. Story 3. Quinoa. I love it, but apparently if you eat it often you can develop a sensitivity to the saponins on its surface. No matter how thoroughly I rinse it, I now get severe gastrointestinal pain a couple of hours after eating it. It has been about 12 years since I could eat it without pain. I try every so often, hoping a new rinsing, soaking, or cooking method will help. I miss it so much. Story 4. I ate peanut butter constantly as a child because it was about all we could afford. I cannot even stand the smell of it anymore. Story 5. Whoppers, also known as chocolate-covered malt balls. When I was a young kid, I used to love Whoppers. One day, I was at a Kmart with my dad and saw a big display of huge milk cartons of them. I began bugging my dad for a carton. I had made such a stink, begging and throwing a tantrum, that he finally had enough but had a novel idea. He bought me a carton and let me gorge myself like the impulsive child I was. I was sitting in my dad's truck on the way home, about 3/4 of the way through the carton, when I started feeling sick. My stomach hurt, I was dizzy, and I felt like I could vomit. I still have the distinct memory of my face literally inside the fully opened carton, staring at a pile of shiny chocolate malt balls, inhaling their sickly sweet scent and groaning. I wasn't face deep in the carton because I wanted more, but because I felt like I was about to throw up and the carton was the only thing within reach that might contain the mess I was close to making. Breathing in that malty, sugary chocolate scent made me feel even sicker. "You sure you don't want any more?" I remember my dad taunting. "Yep, that's what happens when you're being a little brat." I didn't throw up, but that awful feeling stayed with me the rest of the day. To this day, anytime I smell the distinct scent of Whoppers, that nausea comes back as if I had just gulped down those 3/4 of a carton. Story 6. Hummus. I developed an anaphylactic allergy to sesame. Story 7. The McDonald's chicken nuggets were cold, and their smell and taste were horrible. I will never order them again. Story 8. Caviar. I gave it a fair shot and tried several different kinds. It is all bad unless you like eating fish bait. Story 9. Goat cheese tastes like the bottom of a goat pen to me. Story 10. Boiled pig intestines were gross. I am allergic to dairy, peanuts, hazelnuts, almonds, and sometimes cherries. Story 11. Octopuses are smarter than my dog and deserve to live free. Story 12. I'm not sure if Arizona tea counts. I technically ate a giant fungal ball. Story 13. You all, I really do not know, but I have never eaten brain and will never do so. Story 14. I missed the pizza I had yesterday, not because it was bad, but because I don't have a time machine. Story 15. Probably vanilla-flavored alcoholic beverages. Vomited forcefully. Story 16. Hardly anyone understands this about mushrooms. Years ago, I was on a medication that changed my taste buds, and mushrooms were a definite no. Just thinking about eating them makes me queasy. I am no longer taking that medication, and I could probably get past it, but that would take a lot of work and energy that I would rather put towards something else. Story 17. Cow kidney and bull kidney. You know when people say something tastes like excrement? Those two things, especially the bulls, taste like excrement. To be more accurate, they taste like manure. Now think about eating a delicious bowl of ramen and suddenly realizing you are eating cow excrement. But you do not spit it out because the owners and waitstaff were genuine and treated you like family. So you sit there eating excrement twice and then say, "I am full. Can I take this to go?" 10 out of 10. I would return to that place, but I would never order that dish again. Story 18. Mixed nuts from the bulk bin. A few days later, the sealed bag had fruit flies. I am not picky, but I did not buy it for the extra maggot protein. Food poisoning can land you in a hospital. Stay hydrated. Story 19, Popeyes. So hit or miss. Nothing worse than paying for a meal and getting home to realize it all tastes awful. Story 20. Once, on a work trip to Europe more than 10 years ago, we went to a restaurant that served horse meat. I tried it reluctantly. It was fine, but nothing to write home about. Needless to say, I will never eat it again. Story 21. I no longer eat meat. There is so much other good food to eat. It has been years, and I'll never go back. I love cooking for others and opening their eyes to alternative foods. Story 22. I tried several thousand-year-old bog butter. Bog butter is butter that has been buried in a peat bog. This is not a joke. I lost a bet and I honor my agreements. Bog butter is fairly unpleasant to eat. It has a strange flavor that reminds me of natto and long-fermented fish mixed with the smell of gym socks. I also feel guilty about eating part of an archaeological artifact, so I will never eat it again. Story 23. Unfortunately, I cannot eat corn because I have diverticulitis. Story 24. Any type of ice cream float makes me sick. I had a couple of sips of a Coca-Cola float when I was about 4, and I threw up. Never again. Story 25. Blue cheese. I tried it for fun and regret it. Story 26. White Castle. I ate one slider at 4 in the morning about 20 years ago. I still regret it. Story 27. Brains taste like meat jelly. It was not the flavor but the texture. Story 28. The alligator tasted like fishy, rubbery chicken. The breading and dipping sauce did nothing to help. It was gross. Story 29. McDonald's and many other fast food places. I can accept rising food prices or reduced portion sizes and lower quality, but not both at the same time. Story 30. Ducks care for their young. Octopuses are very intelligent. Lambs are cute. Truffle oil is awful. Story 31. Tiramisu. I had the stomach flu once, and my dad bought me tiramisu to lift my spirits when I started feeling a bit better. Something was wrong with it, and it gave me food poisoning. Have you ever had food poisoning and the stomach flu at the same time? I threw up 9 times in 2 hours. I used to love it. Now the very thought of it makes my stomach turn. Story 32. Cephalopods, especially octopuses, are too smart and, in my view, not delicious enough to eat. Story 33. Octopus. My dad loved it and it always grossed me out. One day he convinced me to try it and never again. Story 34. I ate at Carl's Jr. on a Friday night and got food poisoning. For 3 weeks, everything I ate passed right through me, and I lost 15 pounds. Story 35. Mini donuts. I ate about a dozen, got on the gravity wheel at an amusement park, and vomited. The smell still makes me gag, even though that was 50 years ago. Story 36. Any kind of seafood causes my throat to close up when I eat it, and being able to breathe is kind of useful. Story 37. I remember the anise-flavored cookies my grandmother used to make and always had at her house. She passed away more than 20 years ago. Story 38. I had alligator 2 or 3 times when I visited Florida. I tried it, but it was not for me. I will never eat alligator again. Story 39. Boneless wings. I hope whoever invented them stubs their toes every day. I hate looking at a menu thinking wings are a reasonable price, only to realize no, those are horribly overbreaded boneless wings. Why do they have to be so breaded? The breading clashes with the flavor of every sauce. It's a culinary disaster. Couldn't they have been grilled dark meat nuggets? That would have been fantastic. Instead, it's horrible dry white meat. Story 40. I use animal products. People do change, but it has been over 22 years. I am set in my ways. Story 41. Scallops. I went out to dinner the other night and ordered them. They tasted like bleach. My throat burned, and I could feel it in my sinuses. Story 42. Hot dogs are gross. Their smell makes me nauseated. Story 43. The vegan mac and cheese had a very unpleasant aftertaste. Story 44. Non-vegan food. A life is worth more than a 15-minute meal. Story 45. Non-vegan foods. Joking, no, I would probably never eat grapefruit again. The taste traumatized me. Story 46. I tried gas station sushi once on a desperate road trip. The trip became more interesting and not in a good way. I am never tempting fate like that again. Story 47. Pizza Pops were part of the Escherichia coli serogroup O26 recall. Only liquids for 3 weeks. Story 48. White cheddar almonds. I once ate a lot and became very ill. Vomiting was one of the worst experiences I have had. I ruptured blood vessels in my eyelids from retching so hard. The texture was awful. The almond skins scratched my throat and became lodged. Story 49. I became violently ill after eating at Boston Market once and never went back. Story 50. Gooseberry pie. Definitely an acquired taste, and I did not acquire it. Story 51. The Nissin stir-fry noodle cup caused the worst stomach pain I have ever had. I thought I was going to have to go to the hospital. Story 52. I can no longer tolerate refried beans with cheese. I was on vacation in Cancun and got food poisoning. Strangely, it was the ceviche that made me sick, but I can still eat it fine. Story 53. The frosted grocery store sugar cookies tasted awful once I removed the icing. There are better ways to consume calories. Story 54. Scalloped potatoes. My mother made them so badly when I was a child that I can never get the taste and smell out of my head. No matter how well someone makes them, the very thought of scalloped potatoes makes me gag. They are the one food I am truly dramatic about. I cannot be in the house while they are being prepared, and I will not eat potatoes sliced that way. They are the bane of my existence. Story 55. The barbecue chicken pizza from Domino's gave me some of the worst food poisoning. Fuck you, Domino's. Story 56. In my 28 years, I have learned that 2 things go down and immediately come back up my throat: cottage cheese and Pepto-Bismol. Story 57. I ate a grilled ham and cheese sandwich, and a stomach bug that had been silently brewing inside me appeared that night. I cannot even look at that sandwich now. The return trip was awful. Story 58. Cheez-Its. I vomited them when I was ill and they were liquid. It was a shame because I really liked them. Story 59. Durian. I know some people love it, but I am in the never again camp. I cannot stand the smell or the flavor. Story 60. Lutefisk. I tried it once when I moved to North Dakota, so I can say I have when people inevitably ask. Otherwise, people will try to foist it on you as a cruel joke. Story 61. A cheese quesadilla made me violently sick when I was about 13. Chicken or steak is fine. Beef and cheese tacos are perfect. I cannot eat shredded cheese in a tortilla. Story 62. I got sick after eating pot pies, pizza rolls, and Impossible Burger meatballs. I have no idea if the food was at fault, but I cannot go through that again. Story 63. Vanilla pudding makes me queasy. After I had my wisdom teeth removed, I developed a bone infection and could not eat solid foods for nearly a month. Story 64. I avoid ginger if I can. I will eat almost anything, but I cannot stand it. I also dislike lemongrass, which can make dishes I would otherwise enjoy unappealing. It's not that I live on chicken nuggets and French fries. I have eaten food from around the world. There are just a couple of flavors I cannot stand. Story 65. Spinach. We believe the contamination came from a spinach salad. I was hospitalized for 9 days with Clostridioides difficile infection, and the only taste that returned was that of the spinach salad. Story 66. I got food poisoning from frozen yogurt. Never again. Story 67. I pride myself on having a pretty broad palate, but after eating stinky tofu in China, I do not think my palate is that broad. Super pungent French cheeses are not my thing either, so that makes sense. Story 68. Not neat, but Hawaiian fruit punch. I drank it mixed with a laxative as a kid, which made it taste kind of gross. Now, every time I drink it, it tastes that way in my mind. Story 69. I refused my mother-in-law's sea snail soup for 2 reasons. She had died, and it was disgusting. She had believed it would boost my milk supply while I was breastfeeding and help me slim down without reducing milk production. Story 70. Any kind of rice raises my blood sugar to dangerously high, unhealthy levels. Story 71. Black pudding. I went to Ireland in my mid-20s and tried it just to say I had, but I will never eat it again. Story 72. I avoid gluten and lactose when I can. They make me feel terrible and bloated. Story 73. Biscuits and gravy. The house we lived in had cockroaches, and my granddad forgot to wash the pot. I will never forget dead roaches floating in it and the gravy turning red as they boiled. Story 74. I have not eaten pasta salad for over 40 years, and I will never eat it again. Cold pasta is just wrong. Story 75. A while back, when I was in college, I ate Taco Bell and got sick. I haven't had it since. Story 76. Tuna. My dad tried adamantly to make me like it, and, being spiteful, I developed a real psychological aversion to it. I dislike tuna so much that my body experiences psychosomatic food poisoning symptoms at the thought of it. Story 77. The airplane food gave me food poisoning while we were in flight. Story 78. These are really cheap pre-made sandwiches. The ones you get in petrol stations and corner shops in the United Kingdom are consistently inedible and not worth the price. Story 79. I love doubles, but I only ate them on vacation, and they are not sold in the United States. Story 80. The lobster was raw. I ordered it at a sushi place and did not realize it would not be cooked. Not for me. Laughing out loud. Story 81. Sardines. I bought a can once out of curiosity. I ate 3 and threw the rest away. They tasted like salty flesh. Story 82. Barbecue chips remind me of a time in college when a friend ate an entire bag and then vomited on me after drinking at a party. Let's just say I'm still traumatized. Story 83. I ate water chestnuts in a Chinese dish when I was a kid and got food poisoning. The texture is so distinct that I can never eat them again. I have a permanent mental block. Story 84. Burger King. I never liked it in the first place, but I had given in to my grandson's choice for dinner. I ended up vomiting a couple of hours later. Story 85. I tried a grilled pig's testicle in Portugal. My curiosity is satisfied. I will not try it again. Story 86. Da bomb. There is no good reason to subject yourself to that level of bowel destruction. Story 87. Mikados. I'm afraid to go in there. They might arrest me. Story 88. Sushi. I love it, but it is forbidden after my liver transplant. The risk of food poisoning because of anti-rejection medications makes it off limits, unfortunately. Story 89. Anything with artificial orange flavor is off limits for me. I had Tang every morning as a kid, just like the astronauts. Even Orange M&Ms are not for me. Story 90. I got food poisoning from street food this January. Took me well over 16 days to feel good. Story 91. Any free bar snack placed out that a bunch of degenerates will stick their filthy paws into. Story 92. I made a guava smoothie and mixed it with psilocybin mushrooms the first time I tried them. I ended up vomiting while my ex spoke in a language that sounded like Martian about aiming for the trash. Never again. Story 93. Foie gras. It was really good, but I think it is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Story 94. Around 2000, my grandparents took my sister and me to the Jelly Belly factory in Fairfield, California, when I was a child. I ate so many that I threw up and have not had any since. The taste is embedded in my memory, and I feel uneasy thinking about it now. Story 95. Tamales. I got food poisoning from some back in the mid-1990s that ruined them for me. Story 96. I do not think I have eaten anything I would never eat again. I definitely did not like liver, but I would try it again. Escargot just tastes like salt and butter. There are things I have not and would never try, like dog or cat. Story 97. Hominy. I am 57. The last time I ate that vile food I was 4. Story 98. I was about 8 years old. I choked on a cherry tomato. Took years before I could even eat tomato sauce. Story 99. Easy. Fermented shark. I was gently bullied into trying it as an obvious tourist in Iceland. Story 100. Sea cucumber was not awful, but it was not worth eating again, since everything else tastes better. Story 101. I love raw spinach, but I cannot stand cooked spinach. When I was a child, a nurse forced me to eat hospital-cooked spinach, and I promptly threw up. Now I cannot even stand the smell of cooked spinach or cooking cabbage, even though I like them both raw. Story 102. Sharks apparently excrete urine through their skin, and it tastes exactly as it sounds. Story 103. Tacos from my favorite Mexican place. Closed 2 years ago. Story 104. I did not eliminate soda entirely, but I have cut about 99% out of my diet. Coca-Cola and other sodas. The last time I drank one regularly was a year ago. I replaced those cravings with juices, sports drinks, and water, which are much healthier than Coca-Cola. This is not the case for everyone, but I do not have as severe a caffeine dependency as I thought. I simply stopped drinking them one day and have not looked back. I did not experience the dramatic effects that some gurus claim, such as a detox. Not that you would need one unless your liver, spleen, and kidneys are failing, in which case you have much larger problems. For me, it felt good not to drink soda. In my opinion, soda is the food equivalent of smoking cigarettes. Story 105. Red Twizzlers. I was 11 years old and old enough to ride the roller coasters for the first time. I had a whole pack of Twizzlers and went riding. Never again. It literally took hours to take effect, so I think my body had enough time to permanently establish that Twizzlers caused a bad stomach. Story 106. Cherry sours were my favorite candy as a little girl. It turns out they were meant to be sour, not to burn and make my throat itch. Discovering a cherry allergy after eating a whole bag and vomiting everywhere taught me that. Story 107. I did not eat Kraft Dinner, boxed macaroni and cheese, for many years. Even the smell would make me gag. I had accidentally used spoiled milk and did not realize it. This happened in the 1990s when I was in college. I did not try it again until my child was 3 or 4 years old, around 2006 or 2007. Even now I rarely buy it, perhaps once every 5 or 6 months. Story 108. I had grocery store sushi. It was fully cooked rolls, not raw fish, but it made me very sick. Even though I had eaten it many times before with no problems, I cannot risk it again. Story 109. I tried jackfruit in Sri Lanka. They hyped it up so much. They said they had waited about 4 to 5 years for the tree to produce fruit. I thought it was going to be super sweet because, when cut up, it kind of resembled pineapple. The second it touched my tongue, I gagged. I did not want to be rude, so I swallowed it. They kept offering more, and I felt bad declining because they really wanted me to have it. Story 110. Hard-boiled iguana eggs. Gross does not come close to describing them. Story 111. I am very adventurous with food, but blood sausage and liver are just repulsive to me. Story 112. Cow or calf brain. I do not know which one it was, but never again. Story 113. I ate cartilage at a buffet in Japan, and it had the worst texture. I shudder to think about it. Story 114. Amy's frozen enchiladas. Food positioning circa 2007. Hamburger Helper. I grew up very poor and ate this so much as a kid. Story 115. Snails. It was not even that they were bad. It was knowing what they were that completely turned me off. Story 116. Pear. I really hate the texture and the taste. It is a despicable creation. I tried it again last year after not eating it for 10 years and spat it out. Story 117. Descalloped potatoes from a local grocery store chain made me vomit. Story 118. I used to eat a lot of crustaceans and would feel a bit itchy in my throat and a heaviness in my chest afterward. Apparently I have an allergy to them, and it worsens as I eat more. Story 119. I will never eat Kellogg's Corn Flakes again. Frosted Flakes are delicious, though I know they are sugar-coated. Story 120. I cannot eat any kind of heart. The texture and taste gross me out. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.